Welcome to another YouTube, guys. So today's title is the best squat for glutes. Now, if you know me, you know that there's no such thing as the best exercise, but it's nice to have a title like that. So what we're actually doing today is something called a straddle squat, which is really a squat that you're going to be using as more of like an assistance type of squat, but it's no replacement for your meat and potato squats. So it's not necessarily the best squat for your glutes, but it's a great assistance exercise or variations of an exercise to assist in the development of your glutes. And obviously it's going to work your glutes more in that stretch position at the bottom. So we're going to dive into the first movement, which is just a standard straddle squat variation. All right, now a straddle squat is basically any squat where you're like straddling the load, okay? So the load is between your legs. Now in this variation, which is what I regard as like the basic variation, we're going to use a dumbbell. You can also use a kettlebell if you want to. There are a few other ways you can do them, and that's what we're going to show you in this video. So hang around to check those out, but this is the basic variation. So one dumbbell. Now, a lot of people tend to hold this like this or like this, okay? I quite like this, all right, but you can also hold it like that. So obviously if you've got a kettlebell, then it will look very similar to this. So we drop ourselves down into that nice deep kind of deficit and then back up the top, okay? So I'll just give you a few reps of that just as a demo. And then we can obviously also hold it like this, okay? Now, what you're going to notice about that is that we are using a couple of plates. The reason we're using a couple of plates is to allow us to get more depth. We don't actually have to use the plates. So I'll do a couple of reps without the plates just to give you a quick demo. But as you'll notice, there's that stopping point, all right? Whereas when we use the plates, it enables us to get deeper into that deficit, which if we've got that range of motion in our hips, allows us to load those glutes in even greater of a stretch at the bottom. If you don't have the ability to drop deep, then there's no point in using that deficit. If your full range of motion is just on the floor and a gentle touch and go on the floor, then use that as your range of motion. If you've got the extra range of motion and you want to work your glutes through an even deeper stretch, then use some kind of elevation. You can also elevate yourself on a couple of benches. Personally, I think it's a waste of a couple of benches. And normally a couple of plates, just maybe 2 inches off the floor, are going to be good enough for most of you. So that is the basic variation. You can do it with a dumbbell, you can do it with a kettlebell. We're going to go on to some more kind of variations, some of which are a little bit novelty. So come follow along and check these ones out. So this is a variation that I really enjoy of straddle squats. It's a belt straddle squat. Now, obviously the idea of a belt squat is that it essentially takes load away from your spine, away from your upper back, away from having any kind of weight on your shoulders, as with a typical squat, by having that belt around you. Obviously this doesn't do that, so it kind of defeats the object of a belt squat. But what it does do, it kind of replicates more of like a cable squat. So here I've got my cable attachment here, obviously with my carabiner onto my belt squat. It works with any belt squat machine. I've got a little bit of load on here. Now, if you find that it starts from a position that's too low, what you can do is you can link together like 2 or 3 carabiners. I've also used like a chain in the past, just to find whatever length you need. So you're starting off a position where you're not kind of forced to be kind of awkward in that starting point, all right? So for me, this is about right. So dropping into that deep squat position. So that's my full depth, okay? And then just like the previous basic variation, I'm performing my straddle squat. So what you'll find with this one is that you're leaning very slightly forwards as well. So you're not able to maintain as much of an upright position as you might do with any other squat variation. So this is the same with any other straddle squat in that you do have that slight forward lean. I suppose it's almost more similar to like a low bar barbell back squat in terms of mechanics. So a little bit more kind of hip extension involved in this one. But obviously we're able to get a lot of depth as well versus say most people might be able to do with a barbell back squat. But as I said, straddle squats are no replacement for your meat and potatoes, hack squats, barbell back squats, Smith machine squats. I'd argue leg presses are in there as well. to really place some load through your glutes to help develop them maximally. But these are a great assistance movement. So that's your straddle squat using the belt squat. We're going to show you another variation next, which is a little bit more novelty than this one. Right, I promise you, I'm not doing this one for clickbait. It's a Smith machine straddle squat. Now, it depends on your designer's Smith machine. Now, the trouble with this Smith machine is that it's got the safeties starting from quite a high point. So ideally, you want a Smith machine that goes all the way down to the floor, but obviously it's not always available. If you do, it means you don't need to be using benches. You can use a plate either side or a step, or just adjust some risers to the height that you need. Because of the starting point of this, we need to use 2 benches, which isn't always ideal. It probably took me and Peter here that's filming about 5 minutes just to get these benches in here. So you'll need your same cable attachment, just that cable row attachment that we were using just a second ago. And you'll start with your Smith machine without it actually locked on, okay? So this isn't locked on in any way. And then obviously you'll have found the height that you need to. Now this is the lowest that this Smith machine starts, hence why we're starting at this height. All you do is just hook this underneath, find your starting point, and straight away there, obviously without hitting your head on the top of that Smith machine, hopefully the design of your Smith machine allows you to, we can go into our straddle squat. Now, of all the straddle squat variations, I bet you, if you can find a good practical setup for this, which as I said, depends on the design of your Smith machine, will probably feel the best to you of every single one that we've tried today. There's a lot more stability involved. We're obviously along kind of one path of motion. We're tracking kind of nicely in terms of, you know, our body position. We're getting as much depth as we need to with this one. So it might feel the best of all of them to you. However, as I said, it all depends on the practicality of the setup. They're all great options, but if you can give this one a try, as I said, I promise you it's not clickbait. If you can easily set it up, then it's well worth it. So just remember guys, we're using this as an assistance type squat variation, more towards the back end of your workouts rather than your meat and potatoes variation. So you're probably going to be doing 3, maximum 4 sets of that slightly higher hypertrophy rep range if you're trying to grow your glutes, maybe that 10 to 15 mark, even kind of that odd foray into kind of 20, 25 reps if you're chasing more kind of metabolic stress. Just remember, even if we're shooting for that higher rep range, we're still going as close as we can to failure, maybe kind of within 2 or 3 reps of failure, even in that high rep range, okay? So we've gone over all of our variations today. Nice short video, just because I wanted to cover some real basics, because I've been getting questions about these straddle squats recently. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video. You've got some take home from it. Remember to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel so you do not miss any future videos. And just remember, every time you like a video, you're helping support my page. It gets my videos in front of more people, helps more people choose better exercises and better techniques to ensure that they are taking their physique to the next level. Chat soon, guys. See you next week.